idea. Every conversation can and will elevate you. It's where real talk meets real growth.
Welcome back to Level Up. Today's episode is a really special one. I'm joined by Marco Nobel, founder of Fuse, a student housing operator active across cities like Riga, Budapest, and Vienna, and I think more to come. Marco is building at the intersection of a real estate, operations, community, and brand. And what makes this conversation interesting is that he's not just talking about building, he's talking about fixing real problem in Europe, student housing that is too slow, too fragmented, and too disconnected from young people actually needs. Marco also has a very different founder story. Before Fuse, he built a student-focused communities through Young Collective, and outside the business, he has built a series of presence in music, DJing. I'm really interested about that. Performing globally while continuing to grow companies and investments. So this one is really going to be a special episode talking about a lot of the startup mindset, building a brand, scaling operations, community, student living, founder mindset. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Glad
I'm
to
really
be here.
excited to have you. And I appreciate your time. Of course, you have a busy schedule. So I really appreciate your time to squeeze something for me. And also, I really believe your experience, your story will add huge value to the show, which absolutely I'm excited for. So let's start here. A lot of people hear student housing and think this is just a real estate. But when I look at Fuse, I think I went a little bit deeper in that. It feels like you're really trying to solve something bigger than just student housing, also combining, the community aspect of it and building a brand. So just in your own words, if you can break it down with us, what is exactly Fuse is trying to fix?
Well, Fuse doesn't just give you a roof above your head. Fuse also gives you access to your new life when you start living in a new city. And we do that by providing you a community of like-minded people next to your house and a series of offline events as well. Fuse was started out of a company that I started when I was a student, which was a community and event platform for students that were moving to new cities. So exchange students, Erasmus students, or people doing their entire degree abroad. So we brought that infrastructure to student housing, and that's why Fuse is very different, and we do a lot more than just giving you a room or a studio or an apartment.
You publicly said student housing in Europe is broken. I believe in that. I've been there. I think it's true. But the issue is not only the supply, but also the experience. And I think this is what you're trying to build. But was there's like a specific moment where you saw that, okay, this is an opportunity, or it just came naturally with your background?
Well, the first company that I built had a community and event platform for students, and we were operating communities in almost 200 cities around the world. And the largest single problem that students were citing over and over again in all of our communities was housing. It was really hard to find a house. There was a lot of friction checking into your house, and then a lot of bad experiences actually had during the stay. So we saw it a lot, and we always thought it's a very hard problem to solve. We're not going to burn our fingers there. But then, eventually we saw an opportunity to go into this market, and we started Fuse. That's how we got started.
Yeah, that makes sense. But of course, if I look back, let's say the past 10, 20 years, it's already existed. But why now? Why Fuse came to the world now? Was like a transition because of like
what we saw is that there were more and more Western European and American students going to study in the central and eastern part of Europe, combined with the fact that the purchasing power of local students was really catching up in those markets. And that made those markets really interesting for us to start with our brand. Previously, we didn't enter student housing because it is a very capital intensive industry with a lot of large players already covering the more sophisticated markets in Western Europe, in the UK, in the US. We, as an organization without had a deep real estate experience, thought this is not a market for an inexperienced player. But in Central and Eastern Europe, we really had our competitive advantage that we had access to the right audience. We had a unique idea, and the market was still underdeveloped. So we actually had the opportunity to get really nice properties. Whereas in Western Europe, we were competing with very experienced players with a track record. So this is what made it feel right for us. the growing amount of interest among students in Central and Eastern Europe.
Interesting. And hotels, we often talk about guest journey, friction points, service consistency, emotional connection. Sounds like you're bringing some of these aspects to Fuse, thinking also of the student living. Even if you're not calling Fuse hospitality business directly, would you say Fuse is closer to a real estate company, operation company, or hospitality, life, living brand? What is it?
It's a combination of all of that, I think. Real estate is a very important element in our organization. We are at the moment an asset-light company, so we sign our properties under master leases, where we sign long-term lease contracts, and we have management agreements where we take a revenue share with the asset owner. But over time, we're also planning to develop our own real estate portfolio. So that's the real estate side.
Really interesting.
It's heavy operations. Where we try to create a seamless system of everything going right. And yeah, there's an hospitality element to it as well, where we have really good local people who are hosting or newly arrived guests, so to say. So yeah, it's a combination of all of it, I would say.
That's interesting. And I saw one of your recent posts also on LinkedIn, by the way. Nice, your activity on LinkedIn. I'm a big fan.
I'm trying to become a bit more active because I see that it really helps.
Yes, I fully agree with you. And I'm going to come later in a moment to, as a founder and your social presence, of course, and social media, which I think you're doing a great part. But before we go there, I was talking about, you shared the 3 modules that you are presenting to investors or to operator. Maybe can break it down in a few words here.
No, so like I said, we have like a menu for for the potential asset owners that we work with. So we offer a master lease where asset owners get a fixed amount every month. There's no risk for them because no matter what, we'll pay that amount. But then there's also these management agreements where we share the revenue. And because we tend to do quite well on properties when you compare them to normal residential rates, landlords can actually benefit from how well we do, and they can make a lot more money. On the third side, menu option is a hybrid version where we pay a lower minimum amount and they share a little bit in the upside. And so those are the three items that we offer to asset owners. You saw in the beginning that because we were a new organization that primarily master lease was popular, but because we're building up a track record and a lot of asset owners now come to us because they have heard about us via asset owners that we already work with, management agreements are getting more popular. So
I thought
we're
so.
signing a lot more management agreements over the, I would say, of a year.
Yeah, and I'm imagining it's also not so easy to find locations, because what is the criteria for a building you're looking for? Is it like a location is centralized in the city, or what is actually some criteria you're looking after?
Well, the interesting thing about Fuse is that we're very flexible with what kind of properties we can onboard in our portfolio. A lot of the traditional student housing operators go for the traditional PBSA setup, so newly developed or redeveloped buildings with common areas, at least, let's say, 200 rooms, because otherwise you cannot justify on-site staff. But because our value proposition is really happening outside of the buildings, so in online communities and offline events, we can actually onboard any kind of residential assets, I would say, in our portfolio. So we have residential buildings, but also portfolios of single apartments in our portfolio, and all of these are plugged into the Fuse ecosystem. So people who stay in these properties have access to the same online communities, access to the same offline events, access to the same benefits. So we really try to, bring the value outside of these buildings. So instead of having a gym in your building, you have access to a gym that we partner with, or a run club that we do something with every Wednesday.
That's really interesting. And of course, of building the community, I think that's the right direction to also be partnering with local suppliers. It can be a gym, it can be whatever, for breakfast or something like that. From community to from community builder to operator. Before Fuse, you built, of course, the student and expat communities through Young Collective, connecting people online and offline across huge number of communities. That part of your journey feels very important. I think for what you're doing now, it makes sense and kind of connect the puzzles, because it seems like you understood the emotional side of moving abroad. Before, it happens itself, or before you go into the real problem, trying to find a house and trying to find a community and all that. When did you realize that the community was not something that is extra, but is actually a really important part of the product that you're building?
Well, very early, because like I started my first company because of a very personal experience.
Interesting.
I studied abroad in South Korea in the third year of my undergrad, and I went to South Korea, and I went alone to South Korea. I didn't know anyone there, and the universities in Korea, or at least my university, they had introduction activities for new students. These were only for the local students, so they were all in Korean, and that didn't feel really inviting. So yeah, I was quite alone in my first week, and on top of that, they put everyone from the Netherlands and Germany in the same building. So the people that I did meet in my building, because it was the week before the classes were starting, they were all from the Netherlands and Germany. And at my home university in the Netherlands, there were also only Dutch people and German people. And I was like, yeah, this is supposed to be an exchange semester where I have meet people from all kinds of countries. Like, this is not really what I signed up for. And that's when I started an online community to bring all international students together in a Facebook group back then, and I started organizing student parties. And this was the start of my first business. And that's when I realized, like, a community of like-minded people, when you move to a new city, that provides so much value.
I love to hear these stories. That's why I'm doing this, to be honest. The podcast is always these untold stories, behind the scenes. So really thank you for sharing it. And maybe for students who's maybe listening, or people who's looking for accommodation, and specifically for the community, what do they expect if they stay in Fuse?
What can they expect? Yeah. Well, what you can expect is a nice premium room or studio in one of our cities. We're currently live in Riga, Budapest, Vienna. We're opening in Prague, Krakow, and Warsaw this summer.
Nice.
And yeah, you get access to a community of like-minded people. So as soon as you sign your contract, you get access to online communities with people who are in the same boat as you. People are also moving to a new city. Most of our students are international. I would say 95%. You get access to offline events when you arrive, and
Nice.
will make you really feel like home.
That's really interesting. And like you said, because you had experienced that when you traveled to Korea and couldn't know where to start, where to go, I think this is definitely a really big plus if you are a student traveling to a country and then suddenly you are connected to sort of events or activities. Do you actually have like a calendar on every city of events that are running for the community, or how does it go?
Yeah, there's an event calendar. So, for
Nice.
example, every Wednesday, depends on the city, there could be a run club. Every Friday, you have access to a club night. Every Thursday, you can go to a cinema in non-peak hours. So, like, there's all of these kind of events happening every week.
Like, I always like to challenge my guests. So I want to challenge you on why Fuse can win or will win. Let's talk about the business itself. There are a lot of people who can talk about opportunity. Fewer can actually operate across cities like yourself, and you're also doubling up in 1 year to 6, which is absolutely great. Congratulations, by the way, for that. You've spoken also publicly about growing through master leases and management agreement, plus expanding into Poland. What gives you the confidence that Fuse can scale and not just remain an attractive or a good concept?
I think the main reason is what I said before, is like, an operator like us is very unique, and that's because we can operate any kind of residential asset and turn it into an asset that is generating more revenue by repositioning it as student housing. And the operators that we're competing with, they often only take the larger developed PBSA buildings, and that's why we can really win. And we've built it up quite smartly. If I must say myself, like, we started in Central and Eastern Europe, where it was relatively easier to build up a track record, and that we take now more to Western Europe. So over the next few years, you will see us slowly moving to Western parts of Europe as well. So we'll be taking our concept to Germany, Netherlands, Belgium, and maybe more Southern European countries as well.
I'll be definitely following that, and good to see that you're already starting to look into busier markets, I would say, like especially in terms of student housing. And I want to go maybe a little bit deeper to your mindset, because it's not easy to have this mindset, especially in such a competitive market. I know it. I've been in hospitality for a while, and also the student housing was part of my journey, and I know how competitive is that, and even difficult and harder how to build a brand, which is connected to experience, community. So I want to go deeper into that. because building in this category is, like I said, very difficult. What made you believe this was the right category to go all in?
Well, I saw the opportunity, like relatively underdeveloped market in student housing, Central Eastern Europe, properties that are valued lower than in Western Europe, asset owners with lower expectations compared to Western Europe. We do have access to the Western European audience. So when you bring that together, there's an arbitrage opportunity. So that made me believe that this was a viable business opportunity. And that's why I went after it.
You went for it definitely fully. And of course, it sounds or it looks like, okay, yeah, views, look sexy, Europe, it's really nice and it's really growing. But of course, behind that or behind the scene, there is a lot of things that people doesn't know. Challenges can be like standards or entering a new market or getting some license. But what some of your main challenges right now in Fuse and what you're doing?
Well, every company has its challenges because you go through different phases. So in the beginning, everything is exciting and you make predictions and then you're very positive and then, reality catches up and things move slower than they actually, than you planned, and things are more expensive than you planned. So that is happening with Fuse as well. And things, when they break at the same time. So operationally, we had our challenges with people like thousands or let's say tens or hundreds of people checking in the same week, which was really heavy on our operational team. So we needed to upgrade our systems. So we're integrating a new PMS at the moment that is really, really helping us, and integrating AI in our organization. So every time you have, and that is a nice thing about student housing, is that you have these pressure moments, right? So when you have an inflow of new students, like for example in September or January, there's a lot of pressure on the organization, and then a lot of things break and it's messy. But then you have like a few months to fix it and to really like upgrade your systems, and then you're ready for the new pressure moment. But by then your portfolio has grown, so the pressure is even higher. So probably things will break again because there's more stuff happening than last time, because there's more rooms and more studios. So that will constantly keep on happening. So there's definitely stuff going wrong.
Part of the package.
Yeah, that's part of it. And I think in my last company we had, that was similar, because we had the similar pressure moments. But even in other industries, right? When you're in e-commerce and you have your Black Friday, your holiday months, like that's also a moment where most of the pressure is coming and where things will break in your organization, and then you fix it and you move on.
Good to know a little bit of the challenges, and of course have like a couple of minutes a brief. But of course, if you want to talk about it, it needs another podcast itself.
Yeah, probably. I can talk 2 hours about it.
But I'm interested also to know the positives and the win. What does the win look for you, also for the company?
Well, what I really enjoy is to work with positive and smart people. And at Fuse, I'm very blessed to work with a really smart and experienced team of individuals who show up every day and do really good work. And I think that is one of the most fun things about working on Fuse.
I agree. It's the people behind. I think I fully agree with that. The mix, really, the magic. And of course, without that, you cannot win anything. Without that team, and I'm sure the leadership absolutely plays a big role. How big is actually Fuse team right now?
We're with 16 people at the moment.
Oh, right. And that's excluding operation, right? This is just commercial.
No, that's including the people on the ground. Might be a bit more when you include some people who are part-time working on operations in the cities. But it's quite a compact team, and I hope we can keep it in this way, because with AI, obviously, like we can avoid hiring more sales and support people in the future. So my ambition is not to have a very large team.
That's really interesting.
Of course, like we'll probably need to hire more people, but when we can avoid that and be more efficient, that will be my first choice.
Yeah, and you mentioned AI. One of the main topics in every single episode I talk about, but I want to really go a little bit more into what are you doing currently at Fuse, maybe into operation. You mentioned you're launching a new platform, I think in a couple of months or something, building out a new AI team, starting with Chef, a knowledgeable officer, and internal use, sales and support agents to take most of the repetitive work of those. functions. And I love to hear that, because I still believe in the industry, hospitality in general, we're not really using AI as we should. There's a lot of missed opportunity. But I want to hear actually, what are you doing at Fuse when it comes to AI?
Yeah, the other company that we have is called Socials. And there we launched a product that is almost fully run by AI agents. That's my inspiration source, because there's a couple of very smart people working on that. But what we want to do with Fuse, we want to create a shadow team of AI agents who are focused on specific roles within our organization. We started with Felix, who is our Chief Knowledge Officer. So he's
I use
connected
it.
to our PMS, CRM, or Slack, some of the meetings. Not all of the meetings, because some of the one-on-one meetings, like, it's not public knowledge
Yeah.
for the whole company.
Yeah.
So Felix knows everything. So when you ask Felix a question in our Slack channel, like, hey, what is the occupancy in this city? When is that contract ending? Felix will know it. So that is our first agent. And then now we're building a sales agent. We'll have a support agent, and there will be a layer on top of that, an agent who will oversee all of those agents and also checks on the work of those agents. And that's how we build out an entire team. And this is, I think, a really cool project. And that's what we actually did at the other company already. There's an entire team of agents who are overseen by one main agent, and that is what they already work with. And I think with Fuse, that is something that we're now really want to build as well.
Very interesting, and brings directly some questions in my head, especially with the hospitality, being in operation. How are you planning to make that balance between depending on AI, but also in the same time keeping that human connection, human part?
Well, I think for certain aspects, right, for support, I think people always say like the human aspect is very important, but I don't really agree with that, because like a support agent is way better than a real person doing support, because the amount of patience that an AI support agent has and the friendliness that it has is way better than most support people who, get annoyed if they get stupid questions and have to do that the entire day. And of course, there is a system of checks and balances where when questions get too complicated or when AI agent starts hallucinating, which still happens sometimes, that a real person takes over, and that infrastructure should always be there. But I think that human touch is thing. Like, my personal opinion is that it sometimes is a bit the importance of that is a bit exaggerated sometimes in very critical parts of our organizations, evaluating property, for example. Of course, AI is a nice assistant there by doing some pre-market research, but the key decisions are still taken by a very smart human being. So, I don't have the illusion that that AI will completely be able to do everything. That will not happen anytime soon.
I mirror parts of it, I will be honest. Definitely, especially when it comes to the digital support, there's absolutely no reason why AI shouldn't be helpful to, answer those quick questions. If somebody want to get some answers of something specific into the stay or the reservation, or I believe that can be really fully used with AI and really utilized. And I think also, like you said, it has the patience. It will not be annoyed by any questions and all that. But of course, being on the property itself and that human part then will definitely more. But I think the concept is not made to be with somebody really on the ground, right? For the people who check in, they don't really need to speak to somebody. They will just automatically use their QR code or key and directly get in. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
indeed.
Yeah, so definitely it makes
But
sense.
sometimes with larger group bookings, there will be a Fuse representative or city manager or an operation manager who will assist.
I think we're in a time that you cannot just go away without, using AI and hiring some agents like that, because otherwise you definitely not going to be competitive with what's happening, especially with the new generation, with the Gen Z and the expectation, of course, when it comes to AI and technology. It's absolutely almost. I come from hospitality, so I want to challenge this title. When I hear community-driven living, service standards, residence experience, and city partnership, I hear hospitality DNA all over it. What are the biggest hospitality lessons that traditional real estate still underestimate, on your own opinion?
Yeah, a lot of, I think, players in this industry still think that it's enough to just give people a room or a studio, and then students will figure it out by themselves, and most of them will. But I think their experience is suboptimal compared to what it could have been, and the benefits of investing in this in my opinion, outweigh the cost. Satisfaction, the amount of referrals that you get, extensions that you get. I think that outweighs the cost of investing in community and hospitality. Like for me, there's a bit of overlap there, and you can actually charge a premium for it as well. So it totally makes sense in my opinion.
You're right. Of course, you stayed in so many hotels across the globe, even for leisure and business. But if you would borrow one thing from the best hotel operator or experience you had and apply it to Fuse, what would that be?
That's a really good question. I think a hotel is also very different as a student housing operation. So, the nicest hotel, of course, are, the Rosewoods, the Amman hotels. Like, you cannot really expect that in student housing, that level of service. But of course, like staff that is on site, that remembers you, that is very attentive and really tries to give you the best experience possible. Like if you could put that in every student accommodation, that would be amazing, of course. But I don't know if it's economical and if it would make sense. But some of these hotels have amazing people who remember your name and know, like, oh, Mark, you like tennis. Do you want me to book a tennis court this afternoon? And like, I mean, if we could bring that to student housing, that would be great. The human element.
I agree.
But then I think the rooms will get very expensive. So
definitely, it's not the room for students anymore.
Yeah,
you're absolutely right. And I don't want to put a spot on you or pressure, but do you have a favorite brand, hotel brand or hospitality operator that you always, when you travel somewhere, you check for that name and you follow it? And why would you do that?
Yeah, so it's actually, I don't think they're always the best hotels, but I book always with Marriott Bonvoy, this loyalty program.
Shout out to Marriott Bonvoy.
And that's why I'm always looking for hotels in that program, because actually the benefits that you get when you consistently stay at these properties is really good. So Marriott, and the reason, the loyalty program. But that doesn't mean that you can, most of the time it's actually nicer to stay in a nice boutique hotel, a bit smaller, or to stay in more luxury brand. But I most time book Marriott.
I hear you. And I've been in both worlds. I started actually my hospitality career in Marriott, some really interesting properties in the Middle East, where I really learned like true luxury and all that, and hospitality. So of course.
In what cities did you work for Marriott?
I actually did the opening of the, that time was the very first Tripack in the Middle East. It was a Renaissance Courtyard and Marriott Executive Apartments back in 2011. And then after 2 years, we did rebranding to a Marriott Marquise because the name did fit better for that market. 500 rooms, 7 restaurants, 2 bars, helipad. It was really like a amazing property. I had some really nice experience there, and also was a great timing in my career, team, and all of that. So I get what you're saying when it comes to why you would book the Marriott. Of course, the loyalty program is absolutely something that if you're traveling frequently, it pays you back, because you can really save a lot of money staying in almost every city in this world, because Marriott obviously has properties almost everywhere. But also you said that it's also good to be in the independent hotel. I also been in the independent hotels world, and I joined the Citizen M and the Bob and a lot of other hotels. So
Citizen M is now part of Marriott.
Yes, since this year. Part of Marriott. Yeah, exactly. They just got acquired. What? Like, is it all the time that you're looking for a stay because of the benefits, or also sometimes you would try a new independent hotel because of the experience, because of the authenticity, because of the story? What is it if you have these two choices?
Yeah, now like it is hard because like you do travel a lot, but I used to travel more, and I need to hit like 15 nights a year at Marriott to keep the benefits that I want.
Keep the benefits,
and if I stay too much in like nice small boutique hotels that are more authentic, then I get punished by it at the end of the year. But Marriott also, like, I think they try to cater to an audience that likes a boutique hotel feeling. So like the Edition hotels, I think it's like a bit of a boutique brand that they have. It's still are big hotels, but they have a bit of that feeling.
I think you're right. You're right. Also, the Citizen acquisition is also a little bit to that exact direction that you're saying, because also Don't get me wrong, it's great to be in Bonvi program. There's, I think, one of the strongest loyalty programs in the world, and with accessibility to 7,000 properties, like if I remember by heart. So don't get me wrong, this is absolutely good. But yeah, it's also the young travelers that not really able to, afford that program or that. So yeah, it's an interesting debate. It's an interesting debate, I would say.
That's why I didn't like that Sander is not in their portfolio anymore, because like you have some of those weeks, right? You go to a city and then there's a conference in town or Formula One, and then suddenly hotel prices are like €1,000 a night. But then Sander was always relatively affordable, and it gave you like an apartment setting where you could work from easily. But now, that's not there anymore. So that's a shame.
That's true. Well, I recommend you next time stay in Citizen M. That's my little bit piece of loyalty to that company. If you're ever in a place where you want to try it, go ahead and try it out.
I've definitely tried it. I stayed
should.
at the Amsterdam airport once.
Oh, you did? Okay, nice. That was one of the flagship actually in the beginning of the property. Earlier in the call, I wanted to touch on, and we're moving towards the end of the podcast anyway. It goes so quickly. I feel like I could talk with you forever. But I want to touch on building a public presence in social media, and I think you're doing a great job. To be very honest, one of the very first reasons I got really inspired to host you is I was watching in your videos, the updating. You do share every while like this sort of video update where you go to the city, you go to the hotel, and you like the journey of what you're building. And I feel this is really, really interesting. Another thing I like is that you seems to be building your brand for Fuse also in public. You share behind the scenes content, market thoughts, expansion updates, and part of your journey as a founder. Your own site also frames this as a documenting what it looks like to build companies. Plays shows also with your DJing and traveling the world, like the recent post you did in LinkedIn, and investing in, of course, why you're living your brand as we see it. Why is that important for you?
Well, in my when I was building my first company, I didn't really do that. And then I started building a profile in music. I started to release music every month. And I started playing at festivals. And then when you were Googling me, that completely took over. So I was spending 95% of my time as a founder, building a company, people, solving problems. And 5% of my time was dedicated to my music project. But when you would Google me, or when people were interviewing with me for a role at one of my companies, they thought I was a DJ. Then at Fuse, I thought like, okay, it also makes sense if I share more what we do, because we actually need to network and we need to make sure that people know about us. So it also, there were two things that came together. Like my public profile didn't match with who I actually was, because the artist side completely took over. Everyone thought I was a DJ. And then on the other hand, it really benefited the company if I would share and post and write more about what we're actually doing. So I would say since a year, I really start sharing a lot more. So I'm active on LinkedIn. I post here and there on YouTube. Started almost, I think, a year ago.
Really good. Is it a brand building, talent attraction, investor credibility, or you just simply just sharing your journey?
It's all in one, I would say. I think it helps a lot for talent attraction, for sure. People really see what we're doing and with who are they going to work, because I share in some of the videos. I go to the cities where people work, and they see the people that are working on Fuse. They see the founder, of course, but it's also showing what we're doing is attracting asset owners to message us and say like, hey, I have properties I want you guys to look at. So we get a lot of inbound deals because of it. Yeah, and there's also selfish reasons, right? Like if I look back my YouTube videos in 10 years, like it's super cool to see the way I was thinking then, and how I look like, what I was doing. I think it's, if it really feels right, your personal brand building, and no one watches your videos, you at least have that. So
I fully agree with you. And I think a lot of founders nowadays, just still like sit behind a logo or just a name of company. And today people really want to connect with people and want to see, what you're doing. And especially in that target audience you are targeting, they are all on social media. So it will be really very motivating and very opening if, student staying infused, because he knows that you are, oh, this is the DJ, so it really makes a connection, and it makes a story also authentic, and people look for the experience. People want to connect to people. So I think what you're doing is great, and I hope a lot of also founders would do the same, because like I said, it's not easy. And don't get me wrong, also it takes time, and I know it. It takes, efforts, and you have to plan for it, and you have to also be consistent. Otherwise, it's not gonna work. So kudos for you to be
Thanks.
definitely inspiring and motivating. I get motivated by your videos, absolutely. So keep it up, and I'm sure there's a lot of other people are doing the same. Maybe this is the last part of the podcast, and I want to really touch a little bit on the music aspect. Personally, I'm a big fan and I'm interested. So I have to ask you about the other side of your life, because it makes your story stand out. I think so. You have built a presence in music, like you said, perform in major cities, and your artist brand is not some side hobby. It's actually looking like also sort of / professional, You describe yourself as a founder, investor, and artist. How does music shape the way you lead and build?
I don't think it really shapes or builds it, but it does allow me to look at the world from a completely different angle. Because as a founder, if you're in real estate or tech, you get really shaped in the way you approach problems and look at the world. And it is very refreshing if you have one foot in a completely different world, which is the artistic world that I have a foot in. And it can be very refreshing. And it is a way for me to sometimes step out of my world where I spend 95% of my time and then come back really refreshed. And I think people can have that in a variety of ways. Some people have that when they go for a nice run or go for a gym session or have
Agree.
a drink with their partner. But for me, it can be, it is this.
I fully agree. Cannot agree enough, actually, because music also has been part of my personal life. Like I'm a dancer, so when I hit the music, and hit off everything, I just take all the negative energy out and put everything in. So I fully agree with you. And I think also it really plays a big role, at least based on my experience, it plays a big role into managing your mindset and energy and being positive, having something that you go back always to and lean on, So I'm really inspired because you are keeping this live also while you are building a brand and a company with all its complexity, with all its challenges and all the time and, operation, and there's so much going on there, but also keep that alive. I think it's a great example and outstanding. So thank you for sharing that. Let's look ahead. My last part of the episode. What does the future look like for Fuse?
Well, with Fuse, we're constantly increasing the amount of units that we have in our portfolio. That means opening new cities, going into new regions. So this summer will be Poland, but then we're already looking ahead by looking at Germany, Netherlands, Belgium. So eventually we'll become a leading player in student housing in Europe, but we're also looking at different categories. So short-term rental, serviced apartments, workers housing. So it's not something that we're actively picking up yet, but I wouldn't exclude that in the future we also go into different categories. And of course, there's our long-term plan to also build up our own real estate portfolio. And that is maybe something more for the near future that we will pick up in the next 1 or 2 years. But Fuse really has a long-term vision. It is a company that still will be around in 20 years. So yeah, constantly growing and doing a good job. That's what I would say for the long term.
Absolutely amazing, and good to hear also that you are open to expand more than just student housing. And I personally believe that this is the direction. To be honest, I think so. So I'm gonna keep my eyes open. I'm gonna be following the journey, of course. But cannot end the call before asking you the podcast question is level up. What does level up means to you?
Yeah, to improve and to do better every day, I would say, and to get smarter every day. I think we live in a very exciting time at the moment where you can do things that were unimaginable, I would say almost a year ago or maybe half a year ago. And I think we can level up in ways like we never imagined. And I think that is really cool.
That is inspiring. Thank you, Marco. It has been absolute pleasure to host you. Thank you so much for your time. I'm super thrilled, excited to share the episode very soon. But really, thank you for coming here, and hopefully we meet sometime soon in person.
Yeah, let's do it, man. And
Yes,
thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it, and have a good weekend.
Thank you so much, Marco. Have a good weekend yourself.
All right.
Bye.
Yeah. Every conversation can and will elevating, where real talk meets real